Hi guys, and welcome back to Whirly's Watch Box. I hope everybody had a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And we're going to kick off the new year with a review of a modern classic, but also a vintage classic in a way. And it is the Seiko Turtle reissue, model number SRP773, the blue version. And, you know, I got to admit, when I first came across these when I was new to watches and everything, I hated the design. I just thought the case design was just flat out ugly, and then slowly it just kind of grew on me and grew on me, and then I kind of looked into the SKX a little bit, and then a friend of mine said, well, you know, for just a little bit more, you can get a turtle, a new turtle, that has a better movement and everything. So, you know, same water resistance as the SKX, but it does have a better movement, which is the 4R36. It has hacking, hand winding. You don't have to give it that Seiko shuffle, as people like to say. And it grew on me and grew on me, and I said, well, you know what? Damn, I'm going to pick it up. And you'll notice in my collection over these reviews and everything, I have a lot of blue watches. I'm trying to kind of get away from that, kind of diversify a little bit. But yeah, I have a lot of blue watches. So yeah, it's going to be a trend on this channel. Anyway, let's change perspectives here and dive right into it. Alright, so here is the blue modern reissue of the Turtle. And like I said earlier, this is the SRP 773 K1. This is not the one made in Japan, but pretty much looking at them, there's no significant differences. So starting off with the same review format, we're going to start off with timekeeping, and I got to give this one a 9. I've had it running for a few days on and off. I've worn another watch in between wearing this one, and it is still well within the minute. So timekeeping is very good on this one. I know it doesn't have the best movement in there, which is the 4R36. I think the tolerance is probably, oof, I will fix this in a video. I'm going to say plus 40 some seconds, minus 20 a day, something like that. So, you know, the tolerance isn't too tight on it. But, you know, overall still a solid workhorse movement. Nothing wrong with it, just not very high end. Anyway, moving on to the functionality now. It's a 10 out of 10. I mean, it's perfect. I cannot complain a single bit. The loom on this thing is phenomenal. It lasts all throughout the night. No complaints there. And for a watch of this price point, it's just phenomenally well done. Better than some higher end dive watches like the Christopher Ward we reviewed last time. It definitely has better loom there. I think Seiko uses a proprietary loom, if I can speak, and yeah, it's the real deal. It's really good. So if you're a professional diver, you are not going to have any problems seeing this under the water. It has a day-date function, so that's nice. Obviously, as I've said in other videos, I'm not a huge fan of the day-date functionality. I think it would be better if it just had the date there, or no date at all, actually. But, you know, this is a reissue of a watch from the past, and they've done it excellently well. Oh, and the bezel action on this is, if I can get it here on camera, is very, very nice. Little play, little bit, but just barely. Little to no play. Very well done. I know some Seiko bezel actions are a little hit or miss, but this one is done pretty well. So functionality 10 out of 10, 200 meters water resistance, can handle anything you throw at it. Screw down crown, very, very nice. All right, so moving on to the bracelet of the watch, and we'll set that in right here. So when I first bought this watch, I wasn't a huge fan of Seiko's bracelets, or actually even wearing my watches on bracelets to begin with. I immediately like changing them to a strap, and this is an Uncle Seiko strap. I think it's very well made. If you haven't checked out Uncle Seiko for a third-party strap, I would definitely take a look at that website. But I've never worn this watch on the bracelet. Never worn it. I used to be terrible at taking the links out of bracelets. As you can see, I got my tool broken off in there. That is not the collar. That is actually my tool to take out the link, and I snapped it off. I've gotten a lot better at it since, and once you learn it, it does get a lot easier, and it isn't too bad. I've just never really bothered to actually fix this one. Now, if I did have to judge this bracelet, which we're going to do, I mean, I kind of have to, and we'll give it some leeway since I've never actually worn the watch on the bracelet. As you can see, it has arrows pointing down there. It uses a pin and collar system, kind of a pain in the butt, but like I said, once you learn how to size it, it's actually not too bad. I sized my Christopher Ward watch myself in the last video, and they use more of a longer tube system in there, but nevertheless, pretty much the same thing. Now, my biggest gripe about this watch is the clasp. And I just don't like the stamped clasp. I'd prefer it to be milled. Other than that, it's a pretty solid bracelet. Has solid end links. You know, it's a solid feeling bracelet. And obviously I have, well, a while back tried to put it on the bracelet, failed at it, but maybe here after a while I will actually properly size this and throw the bracelet on the watch. But yeah, my only gripe is the clasp, and it just feels kind of cheap to me, but overall not bad. So moving on to the finishing of the watch, I think it's well done. I mean, it's pretty representative of the watch from the past, you know, like the old 6309s and so forth. You know, it's got high polish here on the side, then going towards a brushed finished up top with a high polish bezel. And I think it's done very well. Still has that tool aesthetic, and can't really complain. The hands are also nicely done as well. Now moving on to the crystal, it uses a Hardlex crystal. It's not sapphire. I wish it was, but Hardlex is better than mineral, so you know that's a little bit of a plus. But I don't think it has anti-reflective coating on it. But you know, for a watch of this price, not really going to complain about that too much. Now with the case design, and like I said at the beginning of the video, I hated the design of this watch initially. I just couldn't stand it. I just thought, I'll be honest, I thought it was butt-ass ugly. I really, really did not like it. But then as I started looking into it more and more, and I wanted, you know, a nice proper dive watch, and I was newer to watches at the time, and it really grew on me. And, you know, I was just thinking, this watch can do it all. It really, really can. And the case design grew, and I eventually picked one up, and I think I got it for around $250, but we'll get into that later. So the case design, you know, it is a great reinterpretation of the old one, so I can't really knock on anything in that, other than, you know, the strictly round sides and everything isn't totally my thing, and you know, I like a little bit more detail into the case, but since it's a reissue, not going to gripe about it too much. Now the size of this thing is 45 millimeters, so it's not going to suit everybody's wrist, and we'll show it on my wrist right here. And I've got a 6 3/4 of an inch wrist. So, you know, not the biggest wrist in the world, and maybe it's a little bigger. I'll be honest, did kind of put on a few pounds over the holidays, but nevertheless, I can sort of pull it off because of these short lugs here. That definitely helps it wear smaller for sure, even for being a 45 millimeter watch, which is my only gripe about it. Can't really tell you what the size of the older ones were. I think they were on the larger scale of things. I think so. But nevertheless, I do wish it was a little smaller. Oh, and it also has 22 millimeter lug widths here. Now, the dial of the watch I think is done well. It has a matte navy blue dial. I really, really like it a lot. Really has that tool aesthetic. Now, it does have applied indices, which differs from the old watches from way back when, which just had, you know, painted markers and such. But I do like it. It's a nice touch. The lume's great. The hands look good. You know, I'm not a big fan of the day date, but, you know, it's just copying the old one. So, you know, not going to complain about that too much. The dial is very, very well done. Love the markers, love the hands. The only thing I do not like, I guess, is the second hand. I do wish it kind of had a lollipop there on this side rather than on the back end of it, on the counterbalance, but, you know, is what it is. Now, the value of this watch, I'm going to give a 9 out of 10. Now, I mentioned earlier, I picked this watch up for like 250 bucks. And for, you know, a 200 meter water resistance watch, screw down crown. Oh, I do wish that was signed, by the way, but not a big deal. This is an all around, just great bang for buck watch. It is excellently well done, well made, good reinterpretation of the old one. And I really don't have, I mean, as you've heard in this video, nothing too much to complain about it. For the price, well worth the money, and it can definitely hold its weight with a bunch of other watches that are, you know, a little bit more higher priced. So great value overall. Right, so let's break down our categories and see how this compares. So the timekeeping, for me, it's kept great time. Going to give that a 9. The movement, not the highest end movement in the world. You know, the tolerance isn't too great, but overall, good workhorse movement. Give that a 7. Functionality, absolutely perfect. Loom's great. Bezel action's good. Screw down crown, just fantastic. 10 out of 10. The strap and the bracelet, like I said, didn't really care for the clasp too much, but other than that, I would have to give it a solid 8 out of 10 there. Finishing on the watch, we're going to give that a 10 as well. You know, it's supposed to have that diver tooly look to it. You know, it's not a glamorous watch by any means, so I think it's just very well done for what it's supposed to be. The crystal, Hardlex, no anti-reflective coating, at least to my knowledge. Yeah, it's okay. It gets an 8. You know, it's not sapphire, but better than mineral. So give that an 8. Case design, a 9. Looks like the old one, functions like the old one. Well, I don't think the old one actually had hacking, to my knowledge. But overall, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. Case design, give that a 9 out of 10. It is what it's supposed to be. The size, give that an 8. A little big for most people at 45 millimeters, but the shorter lugs does help it make it wear smaller. So the size will give an 8 out of 10. The dial, I think, is perfect. For a diver watch, you know, it's just, you know, it's not supposed to be anything fancy. It's just a workhorse watch. So, you know, for what it is, having that matte blue, great loom, give that a 9 out of 10. And then the value, if you can pick this up for a good price, around 250 bucks, maybe even less than that now on the used market, a solid 9 out of 10. Lots of bang for buck on this one for a total score of 87. So, you know, not as high as the Christopher Ward, not as high as the Omega Seamaster, but it's $250. You know, you can't complain about that. So for 250 bucks, I mean, it's solid. It is definitely solid, well worth the money, and I highly recommend picking one up. Oh, and I will give, actually, you know what? Let's change the score here a little bit on the dial. Let's give that an 8 out of 10. Because you can barely see here, and this is a common thing with Seikos, the misaligned chapter ring bezel. Not a huge deal. Obviously, I didn't mention it earlier, but it is there, and that should not be neglected. Seikos QC can sometimes be a little spotty, but not a deal breaker for me by any means. So solid score, 87 out of 100. Alright guys, let me correct myself real quick. It did get an 86 out of 100 because I did take off a point for the misaligned chapter ring, but still solid score, 86 out of 100 for a $250 watch. Pretty solid. Anyway, I hope you liked the review. I certainly like this watch. Highly recommend it. Please put your thoughts and comments down below. Like I said earlier, hope everybody had a great Christmas and a great New Year, and here's to 2021. Thanks guys, and see you next time.